What's up, everyone? How's it going? I hope you're all doing great, and it seems that they let us get to Friday again. So I hope that you'll pull up a stump with me and that we can have our little weekly conversation that we have. In this episode, there's no real direction. It's going to be a bunch of things, a bunch of articles that I found, and just some stories that kind of make you go, wow, that's pretty creepy. To start off with something that I found interesting, it says that a new fossil discovery hints at the origin of spiders. Now, I personally find spiders very creepy. I do not like spiders. However, they seem to like showing up in my bathroom, so we deal with it as it comes. The long and short of it is that hundreds of millions of years ago, it seems that there was an ancestor of today's spiders, arachnids. They lived in the deep ocean. Now, personally, I don't know what's creepier, running into like a spider on land or diving and running into a giant spider there. That would be pretty not great, to be honest. That would be a 0 out of 10 time, 0 out of 5 stars on Yelp. So some researchers at the University of Arizona have been analyzing a new fossil that kind of dates back 500 million years, and the creature's brain seems to be organized in an almost spider-like fashion. Now, this fossil was analyzed before and was thought to be an ancestor of a horseshoe crab, but it turns out that it may be the origin of spiders. Of course, it's still pretty hotly debated on whether or not the ancestors of spiders are kind of semi-aquatic, like we have some spiders now, or if they were totally marine in nature. Either way, I do not want them in my house or in my room or anywhere near me, and otherwise they can chill off in the woods or whatever. I don't know. But, yeah, that was just pretty interesting. I thought I would share that, and I'll leave the article to it in the description. The next thing I have for you is volunteers get a little more than they bargained for when they were searching for a missing girl in Arizona. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think that this was originally reported to the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, or BFRO, first. So this incident, I think, occurred back in June, on the 15th. A woman named Amber, along with her husband and cousin, were searching out in the wilderness to help find a girl who had gone missing in that area. This group had gone 20 miles down a dirt track after dark. They were using a spotlight to kind of help illuminate their way and kind of maybe try to get who they were looking for to see them, or maybe, if they were injured, they could find them with the spotlight. And then as they were shining this big spotlight, they found something that they weren't expecting. They found a 7-foot-tall, 400-pound kind of furry creature. They described its face as being leathery and was covered in hair. The eyes reflected with a golden color. The group basically stood there in a standoff with the creature for several minutes before deciding to just get the hell out of there. Now, the update is that fortunately the girl that they were helping to look for was found safe and well. But the bizarre things don't stop there, because this girl had her own story to tell. She told the rescuers that she had been scared by something in the undergrowth. She said that it caused her to panic and run away. This resulted in her slipping and falling off of a cliff. Then, she said that she wasn't alone out there, and that she described seeing these glowing things that were coming toward her in the darkness. You kind of wonder if it was the same Bigfoot or the same creature kind of checking her out. And I don't think it says what she saw in the undergrowth or what she heard, or if she even knows what these glowing things were, but it's really bizarre, the whole thing, I think. Now, I have my own little story. Mine's more funny. It's not even related to this. It's just like you're trying to find something and you find something else instead. So one time my indoor cat decided he wanted to go on an adventure. He got outside, and I think he was outside for a few hours or something. So at one point, I go out into the woods with the treat bag, and I'm kind of jiggling the treat bag and calling his name. And after about 15 minutes of going out into the woods, don't I find a different cat? The cat looked surprised to see me, and I was surprised to see it because I had never seen the cat around here. So I was just as surprised to find that cat as it was to see me. I think that I even ended up giving it a couple treats because I was like, well, since I'm out here. And yes, I actually did find the cat that I was looking for a few hours later. He was asleep on top of the woodpile like he had never just scared the hell out of us all, and he was just tired after a long day of exploring. But no, I will find the article that came from, and I will also put that in the description below. But can you imagine like helping like a search and rescue team and you find like a Bigfoot or you find like something else like that? That would be insane. I'd be curious if you had any experiences like that, and you can tell me down in the comments. And now this first story that I have is actually from a commenter. This is from Randy Hunt. He says, I live in Oklahoma, southern Oklahoma. One night I was driving home. I was going down a long winding road when all of a sudden a blue light appears and it comes straight down the middle of this road. I slam on the brakes. I stop and get out. I look around, but I don't see anything. And then I look up and I see, well, a craft, a UFO or a UAP. So I jump back into my pickup, and this thing is staying the same speed right by my truck. I'm freaking out. I pull into my house. I run inside, and it's still there. It's not leaving. I try using my phone. My house and cell phones would not even work. There was no lights. The electricity was not working. So I got my guns out, my shotgun, an AR-15 at the ready, and then my wife comes sliding sideways in the driveway and comes running over to the house. I let her in, and we're both saying, what the heck is that above our house? We stayed up at the ready all night. And then there was this loud electrical sound above our roof, and this weird static over our bodies. I shot my gun through the roof, and we both did nothing after that. The next day it was raining. We were scared to go outside, but we had a hole through the roof. So we go outside. Our dog is gone. 2 of our cows are missing. I patch the roof, and then suddenly 2 fighter jets blow over our home. To this day, the dog and the cows were never seen or heard from again. Now that would be terrifying. I can't imagine experiencing anything like that, and I honestly hope that I never have to. But thank you to Randy for commenting that, and I hope I could do it justice by reading it. But now I pose the question to all of you. What do you think it was? What do you think it wanted? And what do you think it did with the 2 cows and the dog? I think I've mentioned it before, but one of the only things like that I've ever seen was in 2012. I saw this weird orange ball in the sky, and I was with friends when we saw this. It was a pretty big, I guess, considering how visible it was versus how high it was up in the air, and it kept changing shape vaguely and then changing color. It would go from an orange to a yellow to a blue, and then it would cycle back to orange again. And every now and then it seemed like something would split off from it and then come back. It was really weird. And at that time, we didn't even really have any thoughts as to what it could be. We didn't even talk about it again until after. We just watched it for what I think was about 7 minutes, and then it eventually, I don't remember if it just went away or if it faded out. So not nearly the depth or fear of an experience that Randy would have had, but that's just my own little anecdote, I guess. I don't really have much else to add besides that. And I suppose I do have a friend who was out hunting one time in a tree stand, and they say that it was in the middle of the night. Well, I say middle of the night, but like they had got there at like 4 a.m. in their tree stand, and about 4:30, so they'd only been there about a half an hour, and then they were kind of in this clearing. Like there were trees there, but they were like where their tree stand was kind of at the tree line, and then there was a clearing after that. And I think they said that it was a blue streak, or like it changed colors, like a blue or purple streak, and it was like a circular thing. They didn't know what it was, and they didn't really tell anybody because, you You don't want to tell people in a small area things like that because then people get talking about you. But it's weird too because everybody I know has a story. They always say like, oh no, I don't believe in none of that stuff. And then when you talk to them, they kind of hit you with the, well, there was this one time. But yeah, let me know if you had an experience like that down in the comments. And thank you to Randy again for commenting that. And this next story and the following ones are going to be pretty short. They're ones that I had and I didn't really know where to put them in a video. So this one happened all the way back in 2013, in February. So this woman comes home from work and she sees her boyfriend in the kitchen, but he looks all sickly and very pale. Besides all this, he does ask her if she wants coffee. She says yes, and that she's just going to go put her things away in the bedroom. Now, as she's walking up the stairs to the bedroom, she's wondering if he's feeling alright because he looked normal when she left that morning. But what she finds is that her boyfriend is actually asleep on the bed. She pauses, and it kind of sinks in that this doesn't make any sense. She runs back downstairs. There's nobody in the kitchen, but the coffee maker's on. And then she says that they ended up breaking their lease and moving very shortly after that. So, you tell me, what did she see? Who was in the kitchen? And why was it posing as her boyfriend? And it's kind of morbid, but I'm also vaguely curious as to if the coffee was any good or if she even tried it. Personally, I wouldn't trust coffee that some creature that was posing as my significant other would make. But, just throwing that out there, that I was curious about that. And this next one has kind of a similar vein to it. This guy was at work, and he has a younger brother who's still in school. Now, the kid seems to be a little on the younger side, because when he gets home, his younger brother is already mad at him, and he's trying to figure out why. And then he says that he hates it when he watches him from the side of the wall. And first he's thinking, what do you mean by the side of the wall? And what do you mean I was watching you? His brother is scared, so he's thinking that he's just not making a whole lot of sense. So he asks him to show what's happening. And then, apparently, the little brother takes him to his room and shows him what happened. He said that he would look, and that him, the guy telling the story, would be peeking around the side of the wall and in through his doorway. And then, suddenly, he would be inside of his room, and he would be just staring at him from the corner. Now, his little brother calls him out, calls him all sorts of names and stuff. Apparently, he smiles and goes back to his room. And when his little brother chased him down to tackle him or punch him or something, there was nobody there. Now, he says that he was out of the house, he was running some errands, so there was no way that he could be in the house. And in fact, there was nobody else in the house either. The one thing I want to say is that I can't imagine how hard it is for kids who don't understand or don't have a word for certain things to try to describe what's happening to them. As an example of this, I know someone who used to live in a haunted house, and what they used to say they saw was someone wearing all black with a big head, and that's all they could describe it as. As they got older and, their vocabulary improved, it turned out that what they were seeing was somebody wearing a leather coat and wearing a bike helmet, like a motorcycle helmet. And it turns out that on the highway outside of their house, someone had tragically died in the 1960s or something. But back to that story and the one before, what do you think it was that was posing as someone it's not? Better yet, how was it able to take the appearance of somebody and even walk around and do certain actions like that? In another case here, this guy was only 11 years old. His mother was working overnights at the hospital, so he was home alone, and his dad seemed to be away on a business trip. So he woke up at night and had to walk down the hallway to go to the bathroom. At the end of this hallway, besides the bathroom, is a kitchen area that has a phone. As he does his business in the bathroom, he hears the phone ringing, but it's very late for the phone to be ringing, and he said that this never happens, that his mom or dad never call him. And before he opened the door, he noticed that the ringing of the phone sounded weird, like dissonant or echoey. He opens the door to see the phone ringing, and then he sees a black and red-eyed tall person, or whatever looks like a person, walk over to the phone and pick it up. He said this person's neck was inhumanly long, and he even knew that at that age. And interestingly enough, when this thing picks up the phone and puts it to its head, it sounds like there's noise coming out of the other end, but it sounds almost like screeching static. Now, as he steps, the floorboards creak. This thing's head darts toward him. It smiles at him, and then winks. He turns and runs to his room. He locks the door and puts things in front of it. He gets down and begins praying, and then he somehow eventually passes out at that spot, or falls asleep around there. But the whole time, the phone is ringing again, that same echoey, dissonant ring. And when he wakes up the next morning, all of the stuff that he put in front of the door is now back where it was. Now, the bedroom door is also unlocked. And you might be thinking, well, that's just because it was a bad dream. Unfortunately, the phone was now off the hook, but instead of the creepy, dissonant sound, it was just the regular kind of dial tone that happens after you leave the phone off the hook for quite a while. He said that it always stuck with him, and that he never forgot that night. And from then on, he tried to avoid getting up in the night to go to the bathroom. And this guy right here has a kind of similar story to that other one where the kid was walking down the hallway, but very different as well. So he says that this happened back when he was 20 years old in the early 2000s. He just moved into his first apartment in the town that he was going to college in. One night he wakes up because he has to go to the bathroom, and he's walking down the hallway to enter the bathroom. He places his hand on the bathroom door to open it, and then he sees something to his left. Right in front of his front door in the hallway stands a child. The kid looks dirty, looks pale, but has really bright eyes. It doesn't really seem to be looking at him, rather through him. He thinks that it's probably his brain playing tricks on him. He's thinking it's sleep paralysis. But then he realizes that he's up and walking around. This is not sleep paralysis. He closes his eyes tightly and blinks a few times. He looks back. The kid is still there. He quickly opens the bathroom door and turns on the lights. When he looks again, the kid is gone. And he said that he only had this experience the one time, and he lived in that apartment for 2 years, and that's the only thing that ever happened. Never before, never after. So I ask you, what do you think it was? Do you think it was just a wayward spirit? Do you think that it was just a kid, like ghost, that was just popping in to say hi? And why didn't it show up again? There's all these kind of questions that you have with these short little stories. I kind of like them. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. It was kind of not really structured like anything. It was structured more like a conversation that I would have with one of my friends. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, then please like and subscribe. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed the videos this week, and I hope you'll stick around for next week. If you want to support the channel, there are links in the description. There's memberships and super thanks here on YouTube as well. But with that, I hope to see you Sunday. So until then, thank you for pulling up a stump, and thank you for watching.